They told you that being alone is a punishment, but that isn't the truth. What if the very thing you've been trying to avoid, the isolation, the quiet rooms, the silence that seems to follow you, isn't something to fear at all, but the place where real strength is created? In solitude, you are forced to face yourself. The noise of the world fades away, and for the first time, you begin to hear your own mind clearly. This is where growth quietly begins. The Stoics understood this deeply. They believed that solitude removes distraction and reveals who you truly are. It isn't something to escape from. It's the space where you begin shaping the strongest version of yourself. All your life you've heard the same message. Loneliness is bad. It's something to avoid at all costs. But pause for a moment and question that idea. Why has society convinced us that being alone means something is missing? Why are we made to believe that solitude equals weakness? Perhaps because the fear of isolation keeps people dependent on outside approval. It keeps us tied to validation from others instead of exploring what exists within us. We've been conditioned to fear quiet moments, to fill every empty space with distraction. But what if solitude isn't a void at all? What if it's actually a place where growth begins? What if the moments we spend alone are the moments where we truly start to come alive? Not by chasing approval or avoiding discomfort, but by accepting it and using it as a tool for transformation. Think about this. When you are truly alone, with no distractions around you, something inside begins to shift. The noise of the crowd fades away, and you are left with nothing but your own thoughts. At first, it can feel uncomfortable, maybe even unsettling. But that discomfort is the spark. It is the forge where your real strength is shaped. In silence, you finally meet yourself. Not the version of you shaped by other people's opinions, but the one buried beneath years of influence and expectation. In solitude, the constant distractions of everyday life disappear. What remains is only what is real. The part of you that you've avoided, the self you've ignored, suddenly has space to appear. Facing that truth can sometimes be painful, but it is exactly where real growth begins. When you sit with your thoughts without interruption, you begin building the foundation of a stronger and more authentic life. Think about it. Each time you experience genuine solitude, it's like removing layers of unnecessary weight. The clutter fades. The false identities you created to fit in slowly fall away. You stop relying on outside forces to define who you are. You begin realizing that your worth isn't measured by the approval of others, and it doesn't depend on constant validation. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Solitude gives you the space to reshape those thoughts and align them with who you truly are. It stops being about meeting other people's expectations. Instead, it becomes about stepping into your own power and understanding that the only person you truly answer to is yourself. The truth is, society rarely encourages you to discover how powerful solitude can be. It benefits from keeping you constantly connected, constantly seeking approval. Look at the endless distractions around you. Social media, consumer culture, the flood of opinions coming from every direction. Much of it keeps you from turning inward, from spending meaningful time alone with your thoughts. But once you learn to sit in silence without craving approval, your entire perspective begins to change. You stop living for likes, comments, and praise from others. Instead, you begin living for the one opinion that truly matters, your own. And once you realize this, there is no going back. The fear of being alone starts losing its grip. What once felt like a weakness slowly becomes a source of strength. If this idea resonates with you, if you are learning to turn solitude into strength, subscribe, not simply to follow a channel, but to strengthen a mindset that helps you grow even when the world becomes quiet. Being alone does not mean disconnecting from life or avoiding others out of fear. It means reclaiming your power and rediscovering your voice within the silence. As Carl Jung wisely explained, loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that truly matter to you. The noise of the world often drowns out what is most important, our inner voice, our deepest desires, and our truest self. But in solitude, that voice becomes clear. In silence, we stop searching for answers in other people and begin discovering them within ourselves. In a world that constantly pressures us to belong, to connect, and to conform, choosing solitude becomes an act of quiet rebellion. It's a way of saying that you don't need the crowd to feel complete. It's the realization that you are already enough exactly as you are, and that your worth does not depend on anyone else's approval. As Epictetus reminded us, freedom is the highest goal in life, and it comes from ignoring what lies outside our control. Solitude offers that freedom. In those quiet moments, you are free from the need to please others, free from expectations that don't belong to you. And within that freedom, you begin discovering a new sense of purpose and direction. The world may continue chasing endless distractions, but in your solitude, you begin finding something far more valuable: your own peace and your own truth. The strength of being alone is not simply about distancing yourself from others. It is about rediscovering your potential. Think about the great thinkers and visionaries who shaped history. They did not wait for approval from the crowd. Their clearest insights often arrived during moments of solitude. They treated quiet moments not as punishment, but as opportunities, moments to reflect, to create, and to transform their understanding of the world. Your mind works the same way. When given space and silence, it can create incredible ideas, solve difficult problems, and reveal truths hidden beneath everyday noise. So when the feeling of loneliness begins to appear, remember that it is not a punishment. It is a privilege, a rare space where you can rediscover yourself without the pressure of judgment or expectation. In stillness, you gain the ability to build a stronger and more resilient version of yourself. The real question is this: will you allow the discomfort to guide you toward growth? Or will you run from it, allowing the noise of the world to silence the most important voice you have, the one inside your mind that has been waiting for you to listen? When you are truly alone, you are not missing out on life. You are preparing for it. Solitude becomes the fire that shapes you, making you stronger, clearer, and ready to face the world as the person you were always meant to become. Now think about the stories we have been told for years. In movies and books, the hero is rarely shown alone. They are surrounded by friends, allies, mentors, people who help push them forward. We are taught that this is the ideal path, that everyone needs someone beside them at every step. But real transformation often happens when the hero steps away from the crowd and walks the path alone. It is in that moment of solitude, when the noise disappears, that the real growth begins. This is not just the story of one emperor or one thinker. It is the story of anyone who has ever created meaningful change in the world. The writers, the philosophers, the innovators, they did not wait for permission to explore their thoughts. They didn't wait for someone else to give them a reason to think. They spent time in solitude to uncover their own truths, and through that process, they reshaped the world. You don't need to be surrounded by crowds to make an impact. In many cases, stepping away from the noise of the crowd is exactly what allows you to hear your own voice with clarity. Think about the difference between the chaos of the world and the stillness of solitude. In constant noise, you're flooded with other people's opinions, expectations, and beliefs. Slowly, you begin losing sight of who you are because your focus shifts toward pleasing others. But solitude reconnects you with yourself. It helps you rediscover the parts of your identity that were buried beneath the pressure of the outside world. When you are alone, your mind finally has the freedom to think without interference. In that quiet space, you don't just repeat ideas you've heard from others. Instead, you begin creating thoughts that come from your own perspective. The idea that solitude can be a source of power is not new. Stoic thinkers understood this deeply. They didn't avoid being alone. They welcomed it as a tool for personal growth. Epictetus once reminded us that no one is truly free unless they are master of themselves. But how can anyone master themselves if they are constantly surrounded by others, always trying to satisfy expectations and demands? True mastery comes from understanding who you are at your core, and that level of self-understanding requires solitude. It demands time away from the world so you can reflect, grow, and strengthen your mind. When you step back from the noise and allow yourself the gift of quiet, something powerful begins to happen. You start hearing your own voice again, not the voices of parents, friends, or society, but your own inner voice, the one that has always been there waiting patiently to be heard. Once you begin listening to that voice, you realize that it holds the wisdom you have been searching for. The need for approval from others starts fading. Instead, you begin living according to your own values and beliefs. You become the main character of your own story, someone defined not by the opinions of the crowd, but by the truth discovered within. And the beauty of this realization is that, like Marcus Aurelius, you do not need a crowd around you to feel peace. Your worth doesn't require constant affirmation from others. Solitude, in its purest form, is not about isolation from the world. It is about reconnecting with yourself, with your inner world, and the deeper truths that exist beyond everyday distractions. It is about discovering clarity, peace, and purpose, not through noise, but through silence. So if you ever find yourself alone, if you feel like you're walking a path that others don't understand, remember this: you are not lost. You are simply discovering something many people never do. In the silence and the solitude, you are being shaped into a version of yourself that is stronger, clearer, and more authentic. The noise of the world will always exist, but it is in the quiet where you gain the power to rise above it, just as many great minds throughout history have done. You see, solitude is not emptiness, it is presence. It is a space where your thoughts, ideas, and values can grow without interference. The moment you truly embrace solitude, something profound becomes clear. You no longer rely on external validation to define who you are. You are no longer tied to the opinions of others. Instead, you become self-sufficient, and that self-sufficiency becomes a powerful form of strength. This strength cannot be given or taken away by others. It is an inner power that grows quietly, far away from the demands and noise of the outside world. When you learn to stand on your own, something shifts inside you. A sense of freedom begins to emerge once you realize that your wholeness does not depend on anyone else's approval. The desire to impress, to conform, or to constantly seek acceptance slowly begins to fade. This does not mean you cut yourself off from the world. It simply means you stand firmly in who you are, regardless of what others think. The more comfortable you become with standing alone, the less influence the passing opinions of others will have over you. This isn't about rejecting the world around you. It is about recognizing your own value. When you stop chasing validation, you stop performing for the expectations of others. You stop shaping yourself to fit roles that were never truly meant for you. Instead, you begin living authentically without constantly seeking approval. In today's world, this idea can feel uncomfortable. From a young age, we are taught to chase connection, to seek approval, and to belong. From the moment we enter the world, we are told that we need others in order to feel complete. Without companionship, we are made to believe something is missing. So we grow up chasing friendships, relationships, social media validation, and a sense of belonging in a society that constantly tells us being alone means being incomplete. Yet during this endless pursuit of connection, we often lose sight of our true identity and what we genuinely believe in. The irony is that the more we chase validation from the outside world, the less we understand ourselves. But the truth is this: when you learn to stand alone, when you become comfortable in your own company, you become a force that cannot easily be controlled. You are no longer a puppet pulled by the strings of public opinion or societal pressure. You stop bending to every trend, every passing judgment, every shifting expectation. Instead, you begin walking your own path, a path defined by your values, your beliefs, and your authentic self. Along that journey, you develop a presence so grounded in truth that people naturally notice it. You may no longer need their approval, yet they will feel drawn to your strength and clarity. It's important to remember that this transformation does not happen overnight. It requires introspection, patience, and sometimes discomfort. Human beings are creatures of habit, and stepping away from the constant noise of the world can feel unsettling at first. It's easy to fill the silence with distractions or surround yourself with people simply to avoid the discomfort of being alone. But within those uncomfortable moments, the seeds of self-discovery are planted. Through that discomfort, we begin shedding the layers that others have placed upon us. In solitude, we reconnect with what truly matters. Slowly, we begin hearing our own voice again, the voice that has been drowned out by the expectations of others for far too long. Carl Jung understood this truth well. He believed that the greatest privilege of a lifetime is becoming who you truly are. Becoming who you truly are requires space to reflect, to explore, and to grow. It requires stepping away from the noise and the crowd so you can listen to your own inner wisdom. Solitude offers that space. It allows you to reconnect with your inner self and understand who you really are beneath the layers shaped by the outside world. This journey of self-discovery isn't easy, but it is essential if you want to experience real peace and authenticity. This is where the power of solitude begins to transform you. The more time you spend in your own company, the less you depend on others to define your worth. You start recognizing the value of your own thoughts, your own feelings, and your own choices. Instead of asking for permission to be yourself, you begin owning your identity with quiet confidence. This isn't arrogance, it's self-respect. When you stop relying on others to tell you who you are or how you should feel, you gain the freedom to live according to your own principles rather than the ever-changing opinions of the world. As you begin embracing solitude, something remarkable happens. You start trusting yourself more deeply. You realize that you are already enough exactly as you are, without needing to prove anything to anyone. This is where true personal power exists. It's not found in impressing others or blending into the crowd. It's found in accepting and owning who you are without apology. When you reach this point, you stop chasing things that don't truly serve you. You stop filling empty spaces in your life with distractions or people simply to avoid the discomfort of being alone. Instead, you begin building a life that reflects your real desires, your values, and your deeper purpose. So what does this mean for you? It means solitude isn't something to fear, it's something to welcome. The next time you find yourself alone, don't run from it. Don't rush to fill the silence with noise or distraction. Instead, lean into it. Let the silence speak to you. Allow the stillness to reveal the parts of yourself that have been hidden beneath constant activity and outside influence. In these quiet moments, you will discover clarity, strength, and self-assurance. You will realize that loneliness does not mean you are incomplete. You are already whole, exactly as you are. Once you understand this, the need for validation from the outside world begins to disappear. You stand firm in your own truth, unaffected by the shifting opinions of others. That is the true power of solitude, and it's something that no one can ever take away from you. As you step into this space of self-sufficiency, remember that learning to embrace solitude is really a journey toward deeper understanding. It's a path toward becoming the person you were always meant to be, free from the noise and distractions that constantly compete for your attention. The more you learn to stand on your own, the stronger and more resilient you become. So welcome solitude, because within that quiet space lies a powerful strength waiting to be discovered. But embracing solitude isn't always easy. There is often a subtle and unsettling fear that appears when we are alone. It's the fear of facing our own thoughts, our vulnerabilities, and the darker corners of our mind. Many people have been conditioned to believe that solitude equals emptiness, so when they encounter it, they feel as though something is wrong. Silence can feel overwhelming. Without noise or distraction, we suddenly become aware of parts of ourselves we have avoided for a long time. The truth is, solitude itself isn't what frightens us. What truly scares us is confronting ourselves. In silence, the things we've been avoiding, our fears, insecurities, and doubts, step into the light. They are no longer hidden behind distractions, and we are forced to face them directly. Yet the more you lean into this inner work, the more you begin to realize that this darkness is not something to fear. It is something to understand and integrate. These difficult parts of yourself carry valuable lessons. They reveal where you are still holding pain, where you remain attached to things that no longer serve you, and where you may still be seeking validation from the wrong places. When you spend time alone reflecting on your thoughts, you begin understanding the origins of these fears. Often, they are not nearly as powerful as they first appear. It is only when we avoid them, when we distract ourselves instead of confronting them, that they grow into obstacles that feel impossible to overcome. But in solitude, their power weakens. They lose their hold over you. Embracing this process does not mean your fears and shadows suddenly disappear. They rarely vanish completely. But once you learn to understand them and accept them as part of your human experience, you gain control over them. Instead of being controlled by your emotions, you become the master of your own reactions and actions. Fear stops paralyzing you and instead becomes a source of insight, guiding you toward deeper awareness. This transformation is not just intellectual understanding, it is emotional experience. You can understand something logically, but real change only happens when you live it, when you face uncomfortable truths in the silence and grow through them. This process takes time. It is not something completed in a week or even a month. It is a lifelong journey of growth. With each step, each moment of reflection, you move closer to becoming the person you were always meant to be. Someone who is at peace with their own complexity and, because of that, at peace with the world. Gradually, you begin to see that solitude isn't something to escape from. It is the very thing that allows you to step into your true power. In solitude, you discover the courage to be yourself fully and without apology. The more you confront your inner shadows, the more you realize you possess the strength to handle whatever life places in front of you. At that point, external validation loses its importance because you have already validated yourself through self-discovery. The outside world no longer controls your sense of worth. What matters most becomes your relationship with yourself, your ability to live in harmony with who you are, and your quiet confidence in the path you are walking. Solitude then becomes more than simply being alone. It becomes a journey of becoming. It is the path toward unlocking your full potential by facing the parts of yourself you once avoided. The fear, the doubt, and the insecurities are no longer enemies to defeat. They become teachers meant to be understood. They lead you toward growth, and when you finally emerge from the furnace of solitude, you are not only stronger, you are free from the need for approval, free from the weight of unspoken fears, and free to live life on your own terms. This freedom, this inner self-reliance, is a form of power that can never be taken from you. It is the strength that comes from fully accepting who you are, and solitude can give you this power if you are brave enough to face it. So what happens when you stop being afraid of solitude? When you begin to use it as a tool instead of escaping from it, something powerful starts to unfold. You begin unlocking your real potential. You stop constantly reacting to everything around you. You stop being controlled by external circumstances. Instead, you begin acting from a place of deep inner strength, not because of what others expect from you, but because of what you expect from yourself. This shift is transformative. It changes how you approach every area of your life. You are no longer trying to blend in, to gain approval, or to constantly satisfy others. Your attention turns toward what truly matters to you, and that focus drives you toward growth and self-discovery. You no longer wait for permission to be yourself. In fact, the desire for validation begins to disappear. You start living authentically, carving your own path instead of following the direction of the crowd. The crowd often consumes rather than creates. It reacts, imitates, and repeats what has already been done. It follows trends and searches endlessly for approval. But the individual who embraces solitude, who values quiet reflection, becomes a creator. They think independently. They carve their own direction without being tied down by society's expectations. When you find yourself alone, truly alone, you are free to explore your ideas without the noise of others telling you what is possible and what is not. In those silent moments, your thoughts become clearer. Creativity begins to surface naturally, not because you want to impress anyone, but because you have connected with your own source of inspiration, and you do not need anyone's approval to create something meaningful in your life. Many of us have been conditioned to believe that a crowd is necessary to validate our ideas, our actions, and even our worth. But the truth is different. When we step away from the noise, we begin hearing ourselves clearly again. We begin focusing on what truly matters to us, building a life that reflects our values rather than someone else's expectations. In solitude, we gain the clarity to make decisions guided by our instincts instead of outside pressure. This independence becomes a powerful source of strength. It is not about rejecting the world or isolating yourself from everyone around you. It is about standing firmly in who you are while creating your own direction. The beauty of solitude is that it removes the constant need for validation. In the quiet, your real voice becomes clear. You stop chasing approval and begin trusting yourself more deeply. The fear of making mistakes gradually fades because you understand that every step you take is part of becoming who you are meant to be. This self-reliance is deeply empowering. It allows you to move forward confidently, knowing you have the inner strength to navigate life's challenges without needing someone else to decide what is right or wrong for you. You stop searching for direction from the crowd. Instead, you begin looking inward. As Epictetus wisely expressed, a person is often troubled less by real problems and more by imagined fears about them. When the distractions of the crowd disappear, the world becomes clearer. Many of the anxieties that once held you back begin to lose their power. This does not mean solitude should become a permanent state of isolation. The goal is balance. The purpose is not to withdraw from society forever, but to understand how solitude shapes who we are and what we bring to the world. In moments of quiet reflection, we gain the strength to connect with others in a deeper and more genuine way. True connection is not built by constantly searching for approval. It grows when a person can stand alone with confidence and clarity. The most meaningful relationships are formed when both individuals are secure within themselves, not when they depend on each other for validation. When you stop seeking approval, you begin moving through life with a new sense of freedom. You are no longer bound by the expectations of others. That freedom allows you to explore your true potential. It is like unlocking a door to your own inner power, a power that no longer relies on outside forces. When you stop reacting blindly to the world, you begin acting with intention. Your decisions start reflecting your understanding of who you are and what you truly value. This is the kind of power that leads to lasting transformation, not only in your own life, but also in the lives of those around you. And this transformation begins the moment you learn to embrace solitude. It is not simply about being physically alone. It is about becoming comfortable sitting with your thoughts and emotions without constant external interference. In solitude, the noise fades away, allowing you to focus on what matters most. In those quiet spaces, you begin discovering your purpose and direction. That clarity becomes a powerful source of inner strength. When you trust yourself and stop depending on external validation, you access a form of power that is uniquely yours. Ultimately, solitude forms the foundation of personal growth. In silence, we discover our real potential. In quiet reflection, we stop reacting to the world and start living intentionally, making choices that align with who we truly are. When we stop relying on others to define us, we begin living authentically. We no longer need a crowd to tell us who we should be or what we should pursue. Instead, we move forward with confidence, building a life that reflects our deepest values and aspirations. This is the power of solitude, a power that belongs entirely to you and one that no one can ever take away. Of course, some people will argue that human beings are meant to connect, that we are designed to belong to groups and surround ourselves with others for meaning and purpose. After all, we have been taught this idea since childhood. Humans are social creatures, right? But here lies the paradox. True connection with others does not come from desperation or dependence. It does not grow from trying to fit into molds, chasing validation, or clinging to someone else to define your worth. Genuine connection is built from strength and self-sufficiency. When you become whole within yourself, when you learn to master solitude and stand alone without fear or insecurity, your relationships begin to transform. Once you stop needing others to define you, the nature of your relationships changes. They are no longer based on need. You stop tolerating disrespect. You stop accepting relationships that drain your energy. You stop bending yourself just to please others or compromising your values simply to belong. Instead, your relationships become rooted in mutual respect. You begin attracting people who align with your values, people who respect you not because you seek their approval, but because your presence naturally commands it. When you learn to value yourself, others begin valuing you as well. This is not about controlling people. It is about owning your space, your energy, and your attention without apology. Think about it. When you stand firmly in your truth and feel comfortable in your solitude, something changes. You become magnetic. People are drawn to that presence. They want to be around someone who does not need them, but chooses to be with them. When you stop searching for approval, you become a signal for the right people. those who see you for who you truly are, not for the version you once created to fit into expectations. This does not mean shutting others out. It simply means you stop allowing people into your life unless they truly align with your values, your energy, and your direction. It's not about being alone simply for the sake of it. It's about understanding that your value does not come from other people. This is where the real power of solitude becomes clear. When you begin to enjoy your own company and feel comfortable with your own presence, loneliness no longer feels like something negative. It stops being something you fear or try to escape. Instead, it becomes something that strengthens you. When you no longer rely on others to define your worth, you begin to realize that everything you truly need already exists within you. This does not mean isolating yourself or pushing people away. It means reaching a point where your happiness and confidence are no longer dependent on external approval. You become the source of your own strength, your own peace, and your own joy. And when you operate from that place, your relationships with others become deeper and more genuine. When you stand firmly in your own truth, you begin interacting with the world differently. You stop chasing approval and you stop fearing rejection. Instead of searching for outside validation, you begin making decisions based on your inner strength, your principles, and your beliefs. This confidence naturally attracts people who resonate with your energy. It isn't about forcing connections or pretending to be someone you are not. It's about allowing your authentic self to be visible and letting others come to you because they genuinely appreciate who you are. Think about the remarkable individuals throughout history who embodied this idea. Many great writers, artists, and innovators were not afraid to walk their path alone. They did not need the approval of a crowd to validate their work. In fact, many of their greatest contributions were created in solitude, far away from the distractions and expectations of society. They created because they were connected to their inner world and their creative flow. Their work came from self-expression rather than a need for recognition. This is one of the greatest strengths of solitude. It turns loneliness into creative energy. When you stop fearing being alone, you give yourself the freedom to explore, to create, and to grow without limitations. You stop performing for the expectations of others and begin living according to your own truth. Through that process of self-discovery and authentic expression, you naturally become magnetic. People are drawn to those who are comfortable in their own skin. Those who do not need to constantly prove their worth and who live in alignment with their values. The key is to stop seeing solitude as a curse. It is not something to avoid or run from. When you truly embrace it, you begin recognizing it for what it actually is, a powerful tool for growth and transformation. Solitude is not about isolation. It is about stepping away from the noise and pressure of the outside world so you can hear your own voice clearly. And when you begin listening to that voice, you unlock a strength that belongs only to you. You stop waiting for others to confirm your value. Instead, you begin building a life that reflects who you really are. The next time you find yourself alone, do not run from it. Do not allow the fear of loneliness to control your actions. Instead, accept it. Use that time to reconnect with yourself, to cultivate your thoughts, your desires, and your vision for the future. The more you practice this, the more you will discover that loneliness is not something you need to escape from. It becomes something that empowers you. And from that place of strength, you will notice something surprising. Meaningful connections will begin to appear naturally. You will attract people who value authenticity, self-respect, and genuine connection. This is not a call to isolate yourself for the sake of isolation. It is about using solitude intentionally. Just as a warrior steps back to regain perspective, you can use solitude to refocus and recharge. It is not about shutting yourself away from the world, but about stepping back for a moment to clear your mind, gather your strength, and prepare for what comes next. When you allow yourself that time, you create space to grow and to evaluate your direction more honestly. You gain a deeper understanding of who you are and what truly matters to you. It is not a retreat motivated by fear. It is a retreat that builds strength. But balance is important. Solitude is not meant to be permanent isolation. It is not about cutting yourself off from the world or disconnecting from others forever. Instead, it is a tool for personal development. It helps you clear the clutter from your mind, remove distractions, and see more clearly what truly matters. Think of it this way: when the noise disappears, your own voice becomes easier to hear. You are able to think deeply without the influence of constant opinions or social pressure. And after taking that time to reflect and recharge, you return stronger, with a clearer sense of direction and purpose. This perspective is not about becoming withdrawn or detached from society. It is about knowing when to step away and when to step back in. It is about understanding that constant engagement with the outside world is not necessary to remain connected to it. Sometimes the most powerful step you can take is simply pausing and giving yourself time to think. When you are constantly plugged into the expectations of others, constantly searching for validation, you begin losing your own voice. Life starts revolving around pleasing others rather than expressing your true self. Solitude gives you the chance to reconnect with what exists within you. In that quiet space, you rediscover your strength, your clarity, and your direction. The world will continue encouraging you to conform, to belong, and to chase approval. Everywhere we look, there are messages telling us that we must fit in and be accepted by the group. But the most powerful individuals are those who can stand alone, not because they are broken, but because they are complete within themselves. They do not rely on the approval of others to determine their worth. They have already discovered that value within. This is the true power of solitude. It allows you to reconnect with your authentic self and find confidence in simply being who you are. That does not mean you must always remain alone or push people away. It means having the wisdom to recognize when solitude is necessary for your growth. It means understanding that independence and connection can exist together. You can stand strong in your truth while still engaging with the world in meaningful ways. Solitude is not about shutting others out. It is about knowing when to withdraw and when to participate. The more you learn to use it wisely, the more powerful it becomes in shaping your life. So as you begin using solitude as a tool for growth, remember this: it is not about hiding from the world. It is about taking time to reflect, to recharge, and to reconnect with yourself. It is about using those quiet moments to grow, to find clarity, and to build the strength required to face life as your authentic self. When you approach solitude with this understanding, it stops being something to fear. Instead, it becomes a powerful source of energy, a place where you gain the strength to move forward with confidence and purpose. Once you truly understand the power of being alone, you will never again see loneliness as a weakness. You will recognize it as a tool for growth, a gift that allows you to strengthen your character and deepen your understanding of who you are. From that place, you will also discover that the strongest relationships are the ones built on self-sufficiency rather than neediness. When you feel whole within yourself, you naturally attract people who resonate with that same sense of wholeness. You stop settling for relationships that drain your energy. Instead, you form connections built on mutual respect and shared values. So the next time you find yourself alone, do not fear it. Embrace it. Use it as a chance to step back, refocus, and build the inner strength you need to move forward in life with clarity and confidence. Because when you master solitude, you begin mastering yourself, and that is one of the most powerful things a person can ever achieve. Embrace your solitude. In the quiet moments, you discover the strength to shape your own destiny, the power to create, transform, and rise above the noise of the world already exists within you. Do not fear being alone. Use it as the forge that refines who you truly are.